Hi everyone, I'm Kelly. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a special guest with me and his name is...
Hi, my name is Terence. Today, me and Kelly will be doing our analysis and insight sharing on Skye Holland.
So what is so special about Skye Holland? As usual, a disclaimer to share with all of you that all the information presented to you are based on our own analysis. If you are not sure about which part or anything that you want more clarification, feel free to reach out and I'll be more than happy to address them with you. So back to Skye Holland. It is definitely a very unique project that a lot of people are talking about because we know that strategically it's possibly the last plot at Holland area, right next to Holland Village, and that is a lot of childhood memories. I must say, like I used to go there often. They have this Walla Walla. You go before?
I've been to Holland a couple of times and actually I realized a lot of the tourists like to visit Holland, especially in Singapore. So actually my question here is, for this new launch, what is so special about it?
Well, that's a great question, Terence. At first, when I was looking at Skye Holland, I was rather skeptical because we know that One Holland Village during that time when they were launching, the take-up rate was not fantastic. And if you are someone who's in the market, you will also have known that Price Organization tends to probably price their unit a little steeper than what other developers would. So as such, it did take a while. Nonetheless, we also know that with the increasing property markets in terms of price, in terms of land sales, it actually began to pick up in sales later years because it seems much cheaper as prices pick up. But this location itself is very unique to many because for those who stay around here, this is probably one of the most commonly visited places, such as people who are staying at the GCB area or the landed zone, or even like the Mount Sinai area and all around there. They also frequent One Holland V a lot, even for myself as well. So being the last plot over there, it is really going to spark a lot of interest because if you don't get in at this point of time, will there still be another opportunity? We also want to be presenting you a very fair approach about this development because as unlike all projects, there's plus and minus and everyone comes in with different needs. So stay till the end because we're going to share with you our own take for you to assess if this is a project for you.
I'm actually seeing from this picture, there's a unblocked view and there are different facing. So actually, what will you advise potential investors looking to invest in this development?
There are two kinds of buyers who are looking for One Holland V here. Firstly, there are a group of buyers who only want here because of the lifestyle, the space, the convenience and everything. There's another group of buyers who are the investor buyers. Investor buyer could also mean that buying for part stay and part investing or buying for rental yield, which are the things that we will be addressing later. So before we move to that, right, what is the unique thing about this development is you can notice that actually both of the towers over here are facing unblocked view. So if you're actually getting a unit which is a lightly premium stack, you might be able to enjoy the GCB views, which is perfect and beautiful. But there's one downside about this stack, which is that over here, this is actually the west facing, which means that the west facing could be directly on the walls of these last two units. And hence, if you are someone who wants to avoid west facing, it is good to actually look into the one more towards the right side.
So Kelly, for this project, is it a leasehold or a freehold?
I have a lot of clients also very confused whether is this going to be a leasehold or freehold because it seems like the per square feet may end up going at about 3,002 to 3,004 PSF. Yes or not depends on you. Is a 99 years leasehold? Yes or not in terms of is it an opportunity or not? Because if today with this plot of land being a freehold, I do not think the price will be 3,003 to 3,004. It may likely even be 3,008 to 3,009 per square feet, which will definitely be out of reach for most of us. So lucky or not, I think it's quite okay to be 99 years. And then it's also a total of 666 units. Of course, developers we are familiar is UOL and Capital Land and also our Singapore Land Group and King Ling Company.
Right, and for Skye Holland, there are a couple of bedroom types. However, there's no one bedder for this development, which we will cover why later on. So for two bedders, as you can see, there are three unit types. For two bedroom B1, B2, there are 74 units. And for two bedroom premium, there are a total of 148 units. And for two bed premium plus study, there's a total units of 148 units. And there are two main three-bedder types. One is the C1 and C2, which is of 915 square feet with a total unit supply of 74, and three-bedroom premium CP1 and CP2 with a total supply of 74 units. And we have two types of 4-bedder with private lift ranging from 1,200 square feet to 1,400 square feet. And lastly, we have a 5-bedder premium with private lift with a unit size of 1,765 square feet with a unit supply of 37 units.
Which all makes up to 666 units for this development. So the spread out of the units will be, as mentioned, Block 2 and Block 6 itself. With Block 2 being the block with the 5-bedder, there's only one stack of 5-bedder over here. So if you are looking for like a retirement home, or you're thinking of downsizing from your landed to a good location, if you have special liking for this area and you really are keen for the 5-bedder, you probably need to DM me directly, because in this video we are not going to cover the 4-bedder and 5-bedder. If not, the video is going to be 1 hour long. So we do have already the price matrix for the 4 and 5-bedder, so feel free to reach out if you would like to have them. As Terence mentioned earlier, there's going to be a good spread of 2-bedders, 2-bedroom premium and 2-bedroom premium plus study. The reason why this could be happening is because the developer may not want to have 1-bedder in this development, and we are starting to see that more and more people are showing interest in 2-bed 1-bath or even 2-bed 2-bath. So the key is, I do want to highlight to us that we are going to talk about a very efficient layout and size right here, because for a harmonized project, you are seeing a 581 square feet, which means that if you add a 7%, right, your square feet for 2-bed 1-bath will be easily 630 plus square feet. And then if you are looking for a normal 2-bed 2-bath, you can realize that with a 667 and 678 square feet, if it is a non-harmonized, it will easily be 700 over square feet already. And then lastly, of course, you see that the 2-bed plus study being 732 to 743, it also means that in actual fact, it should be on par with about 800 plus square feet. So this being said, most of us who are waiting to buy a harmonized project, you can now get to really enjoy buying actual space that you are using and potentially at a very attractive price, which as usual, we will address that along the way as we talk about 2-bedder. And it's the same also for 3-bedder and 3-bedroom premium, because 3-bedroom and 3-bedroom premium, you notice their size is 915 and 1076. On paper, it looks small, but again, if you add another 7% of space onto it, it should be something close to about 1,000 square feet to 1,200 square feet. So 4-bedder and 5-bedder are extremely unique in terms of their layout and also their facing. So we will address that in person or through our webinar, which is happening in 2 weeks' time.
And also, one very common question that we always seen is that, ever since COVID, property price keeps going up. And one question is, will we be buying at an all-time high even for a project like this?
As like all buyers, even for myself, I always ask myself this question: what if I'm buying at a record price over there? To decide if we are buying at a record price, let's look at what is happening around us. Because now we are entering to a new launch, and of course land sales matters a lot in terms of our own gains. The bigger the gap from developers break even to the actual purchase price will be more for the developer's profit. So we want to know actually what has been happening around us before you decide if it's going to be high or low. If you take a look at this land bid, which is the current one we're talking about, Skye Holland, is at 805.4 million for Holland Drive for this GLS. So as such, right, if you take a look at upcoming for the future launches, which a lot of us are having a lot of concern about, you can see that the nearer plot being Dun is going to be likely launched above 2,008 per square feet. This will be actually happening in 2025 to 2026. So where are we at? We are over here. We are expecting us to be at 2009 estimated per square feet onwards. But we also hear from developer that they may have 2008 starting from as well. Probably because of the current competition that's happening, they also want to not hold too much stocks. So we'll address that along the way. We also want to share with you that before you decide if you're buying at an all-time high, take a look at what is happening around you. Upcoming, we're going to have Bayshore to be launching at 2008 per square feet and onwards. Bayshore is at District 15 and is an OCR plot. So understanding land cost is important because it helps you to kind of track what is going to happen in the upcoming market ahead. For example, if you take a look at Bayshore, being an OCR plot, you can notice that their per plot ratio for the land is 1,388 PSF, which means that they have no choice but to launch it at above 2,008 per square feet. And we're talking about an OCR plot right here. Next, if you take a look at the CCR plot, you have River Valley area. River Green has already launched up to 3,003 per square feet. I know because I was one of the person in the queue. And also the next parcel is going to be launching above 2009, which makes it eventually also 3,003 to 3,004 per square feet. This is in conjunction with what we are having right now, because Skye Holland is also a CCR plot, and given that it's going to be launched above 2008, we are also expecting it to cross 3002 to 3003 eventually due to the high-rise component. And what's going to happen around you as well is you're going to see Zion Road going to be above 2008, eventually 3000 plus. And all of these are actually RCR plots. So in the upcoming years ahead, I can safely share with you that we are going to expect OCR pricing to be around 2000 to 2004 per square feet, and RCR pricing to be ranging at about 2007 all the way to 3002 per square feet. And if it's CCR and you are going in at 2008 per square feet, do you think this is going to be a very big gap for the future market? Now, of course, my role here is not to just sell you Skye Holland. My role is to really let you logically understand the situation, because this is exactly how we use it to compare for our own property purchase. Then if you take a look at Hill on Holland as well, we know that land costs are going to get more and more expensive. For Hill on Holland, which is a freehold development, it is already launching at a 1,654 per plot ratio that time. That means that during that time when it's 1,654 per square feet per plot ratio, they eventually sell at 2007 to 2009 per square feet. Then next, we also have the upcoming sites that our government has released, which is right opposite 11 at Hollands. Over here, if you're familiar with Holland area, it's quite near to the Ancestral Hall and also 1 kilometer to MGS. With these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plots of land going to be released, we are going to see 2 launches for these 2 plots first. That being said, that's called Holland Link. It's going to draw about 1,432 per plot ratio per square feet. Just now I mentioned to you that Bayshore is 1,388 and they'll be launching at around 2,009 per square feet, eventually crossing 3,000 for OCR. This is going to likely at least launch from 2,007 per square feet starting from, which means that if you take a look at their break-even price, you can now make sense of everything, because unlike all construction costs, there's also inflation. So 2004 is developers break even. I wouldn't be surprised if they launch this at 2008 per square feet as well. So with such a small plot ratio of just about 1.8, and you can launch up to 2009 per square feet, and it's only low rise up to 6-story high, Skye Holland looks so much more appealing because of these characteristics. So if you take a look at the neighboring sites for Holland, this will likely be also about just a mere 280 units. That having said, if you take a look at this is 230 units and this is 280 units, let's assume that there's actually 5 plots here, and all of them, since the plot ratio is the same, each of them yield about 230 to 280 units, which means the total number of supply over there for the 5 plots will be 1,275 units. That being said, the 1,275 units only have one attribute, which is MGS, but other than that, they are probably going to be likely low-rise, low-density project with a facility that can never match with Skye Holland's, because Skye Holland is 666 units after all. If you are thinking of buying Skye Holland, you'll also be wondering, if I'm going to sell, will I also have a lot of competitors? Since now you mentioned there's 1,275 units, what happens if I want to sell? Who are our current competitors? Our current competitors we have discussed the last time, and we decided to eliminate Hill on Holland, and also decided to eliminate Perfect 10 because they are all freehold. So the only leasehold competitor will be One Holland Village. So One Holland Village, as of now, we have a total of 29 resale listings. So these 29 resale listings will eventually be spread out between 1, 2 and 3 bedder. For One Holland Village, for context's sake, the highest bid was 1,285 per square feet. And when they launched, the lowest launch price was 2,003 per square feet, and eventually also went up to 3,781 per square feet. That's quite a very big gap from where it started to where it ended. And later on, we'll dive deeper on which are the actual room type that are able to make the most. Based on the summary of all the data that we have presented, One Holland Village being lowest transacted at 2,003 per square feet, and with the highest being 3,007 per square feet, and averaging around 2,008 per square feet. If you take a look at this all the way to here, there's a total of 32-story high for One Holland Village. Let's say, for example, from the lowest to the highest, the overall gap from here to here is 609 per square feet gap. That having said, right, if I plot this same per square feet gap onto Holland area of all the 5 plots, the lowest, let's say they start from 2007 and end at 2009 per square feet. you can see that though the gap is only 200 per square feet, if I take the average of this over here, you can see that 6-story, let's say average medium per floor jump or per square feet gain is about 609 divided by 5-story, which will derive at 122 per square feet difference. So why is it important for you to know this? Because today we are exploring Skye Holland, which is a total of 40-story. So for a 6-story versus 40-story, there's definitely going to be a very big gap from where you start off until the highest level.
So with much being said, especially for One Holland Village, the existing development and also the upcoming 5 plots, do you think it is safe to enter Skye Holland?
So as much as it seems like Skye Holland looks like a good buy or whatsoever, I do have my reservation because initially we were hearing that it's going to start from 2009 per square feet, and recently we hear that it's going to start from 2008. And then if I take a look at One Holland Village quantum, you can see that the 1-bedder average quantum is 1.3 all the way to 1.54. And for 2-bedder, you can see that it's on 1.98 quantum all the way to 3.2. And also 3-bedder 2.5 quantum to 5.1. And lastly, 4-bedder from 6.5 all the way to 7.1. So the quantum size tells us a lot because it means that the buyers over here are able to afford a higher quantum here. But what they really want, right, is probably a nice view and efficient layout. And so much so that I feel that the 1-bedder does not see a lot of gains as well. But since Skye Holland doesn't have 1-bedder, we're going to skip that altogether. Moving forward, we also want to explore developers' pricing strategy. Earlier, I was mentioning to you that, One Holland Village has a very big price gap from their smallest unit to the largest unit. So if you see Skye Holland, right, given that they only have 2-bed, 1-bath as a starting price, you can see that their 2-bed, 1-bath is very close to the 1-bedder in One Holland Village. When I look at the price comparison, it appears to me that Skye Holland is intentionally priced to sell because they know that people are able to accept transactional price in One Holland Village. So today, if they are able to price Skye Holland at a very close price tag with One Holland Village, we do not see any issue with the take-up rate for this development for the smaller unit at least. Same thing for their 600 over square feet to 700 plus square feet. This is actually harmonized and this is non-harmonized. Yet, their quantum has already gone from 1.85 to 2.5. So later on, we'll be very excited to share with you for 2-bedder, what is the minimum and the highest price that you're going into, and also for 3-bedder and also for 4-bedder. But before we derive at the actual developer pricing strategy, we also need to take comparison with a similar project so that we know what is the per floor jump, what kind of approach will developer be adopting. And the closest match that we are actually having as of now is Upper House, because we all know that Upper House is a UOL project. So as such, the comparison will likely be more accurate because it is also a CCR District 10. It is a 35th story as compared to Skye being 40. And there's only one stack for 4-bedroom suite and 3-bedroom premium with premium facing. So for Skye also, there's one stack for 5-bedroom premium and 4-bedroom premium with premium facing. Why Skye they will do this is because they already expected that people over here may want to go for the larger unit type due to the characteristic of this location. If you take a look at what is around, as mentioned, there's a lot of GCB and landed housing, so the demand for larger space is more apparent than that of Orchard. Majority of the units are also 2-bedroom types. Same thing for Upper House, majority of them are also 2-bedroom types, which sold very well for Upper House, I must say. So the potential pricing strategy that we see the developer might adopt is the larger unit will have a likelihood of higher per square feet than the smaller unit, because the developer will likely load more on the larger unit knowing that there's going to be demand for that. Because of that, we are going to expect a higher premium gap between the lowest floor and the highest floor. So we can actually leverage on this to see, let's say if I'm thinking of buying a 2-bedder, but I know that the 4-bedder are selling with a 400 per square feet gap than mine, then I do see that this could be one good opportunity for you to enter. So as mentioned, this is going to be a prediction. So if it really happens this way, then definitely I think the 2-bedder is good to go. But if it's not, then you do have to reach out to someone that you can trust to relook at the numbers again to decide whether it is still going to be a good buy or not. Then for Upper House, what is a unique pricing strategy that developer has adopted is larger units have higher per square feet than smaller units. If you take a look at the 4-bedroom suite over here on the level 34, they have up to 3,904 per square feet. And the gap with the smaller unit, which is on the same floor, is 263 PSF on level 3404. And the biggest gap with the smaller unit type on the same floor being 3409 is a 388 per square feet. That means that because of this going at 3009 per square feet, you are able to enter in knowing that people has bought higher than you by a very significant difference. So similar cases of higher per square feet for larger units can be also Martin Modern. If you take a look at Martin Modern, their entry price during the purchase price gap is 192 per square feet on the same floor. This is for their 4-bedder and their 3-bedder. Most importantly is you can also notice that their profit gap has 165,000. This means that for the 4-bedder which entered at a higher per square feet over here, you can notice that the 3-bedder managed to leverage on the 4-bedder in order to have a better profit. So if I break down into the annualized returns, you can also notice that for a 3-bedder, you are able to have an annualized return of 37%, whereas for a 4-bedder, there's an annualized return of only 27%. In this context, that is exactly what we mean in terms of buying a unit with a higher per square feet gap if developer price a larger unit of higher PSF. Same thing for Reef at Kingstock. If you notice a 1, 2 and 3-bedder, their per square feet gap is up to 268 PSF on the same floor. Having said that, their gains also have a gap of up to 226 per square feet. This means that if anyone who is buying the Reef at Kingstock notice that the 1 and 2-bedder have a gap with the 3-bedder, they will then see themselves analyzing at an amount at a percentage that is higher than the 3-bedder being the one to set the record price. So one of the things that you must take note is that if developers adopt this pricing strategy for Skye, Better View may actually have a more premium pricing. So if you want to buy a 2-bedder or 3-bedder and you do want to buy a Better View, let's say a landed view, you also want to have very clear intention that are you okay to buy at a significant higher price tag than what is selling at the other block. And also the second thing is larger unit with higher per square feet entry may result in a lower annualized rate. So if you are buying for own stay and not really for the investment point of view, then I think it's perfectly fine. But if you are buying for investment, do be mindful of this because it directly will affect your profits. And the third point that I'll suggest you to take note is that you can consider leveraging on the price gap to enter on smaller units because I would think that this is a good opportunity for investors.
Okay, and to continue from where Kelly left off, we are using it as a reference for upper house in regards to floor level strategy for Skye Holland. So if you are looking at 2-bedder for the 700 square feet at upper house, the price gap premium between the lowest price and the higher price, if you are taking the reference of level 14 and level 34, the per square feet range from 3,290 to 3,641. So the difference in the quantum is approximately 250,000, which amounts to 351 per square feet. So if you average it out, we are looking at about an increment of 0.6% per floor.
But because Skye Holland is a total of 40 story, upper house is only 35. In this context, we are going to minus a 0.6 per floor increment to 0.5 so that the gap from the lowest to the highest will not be too alarming for people to absorb. This brings us to the next part on Skye Holland's potential price prediction. Based on a conservative of 0.5 increment per floor jump, you can notice that level 4 to level 14 has a total of 39 floor gap. With level 4 starting from 2,008 per square feet, level 40 will end up at 3,334 per square feet. This means that there will be a total gap of 534 per square feet from the lowest to highest. In terms of quantum difference, it will be likely at 310,000 and above. 310,000 being the 2-bedroom compact, which is a 581 square feet.
Okay, Kelly, so what's the difference between a larger floor plate versus a smaller floor plate?
Now, the thing is that a lot of us, we only look at the bedroom type. Oh, we are going in for 2-bedder, we are going for a 3-bedder. Most of us, when we are doing our unit selection, we will always start from the smaller size or the smallest quantum onwards. But if you actually dive deeper into the importance of understanding this, especially in Skye Holland, you can notice that people who are buying a larger floor plate, let's say we start from the 2-bedder, if you take a look at the 2-bedder being 1,044 square feet, the average gains that they are getting range from 390,000 all the way to 501,000. This is for a holding period of 7 to 8 years. And the annualized rate is something that I'm a bit concerned because you realize it's only at 1.81 to 2.52. Now moving forward, you can realize for the 3-bedroom Leiden residences. Leiden residence 3-bedroom is extremely big. So many of us are wondering how come the smaller units in Holland area is not exactly moving. In fact, I have a colleague trying to sell units at Hill on Holland at a very attractive price, but it's also not moving for the two-bedder. When we dive deeper, we realize that, how come Leiden Residence is moving very well? Because it seems like their bedroom types are quite big. If you see their three-bedder, it is at 2,131 square feet. For this larger floor plate, it results in them being able to see a gain of, even for a mere holding period of 5 years, can see a 1.12 million gain. And also for the rest of them, they actually outperform. They have about 900,000 all the way to 1.984 million of gain over a period of course, 5 all the way to 11 or 12 years. Then the key is their annualized return is also very attractive because you see ranging from 3.3% to 3.91%. Of course, there are also some other cases that they only made a little, but the odds are lower. Now moving forward to their four-bedder, which is 2,669 square feet in terms of the floor plate, it seems like their gains are extremely good because you see, even if they're holding it for 3 to 6 years, they have an annualized gain of 5%. That means that people who are buying seems to favor more for a larger floor plate in order to live more comfortably. So I must say that we are leaning more towards a lifestyle purchase in Skye Holland. If you are thinking of buying to hold and invest at the same time, I guess based on lifestyle is a good thought process. For Hill at Holland itself as well, if you take a look at Hill at Holland for two-bedder, their two-bedder has sizes from 600 plus square feet, which is pretty small, I must say, and then 700 square feet and also 1055 square feet. 1055 square feet has seen themselves having 600 over 1,000 of gain over a period of 3 years as well. And for the rest, 700 square feet, you've seen about 182 to 220. And then for the smaller unit, it's also ranging at 140,000 to 186. And if you take a look at their annualized return, you can also make sense of why floor plates is important. Because the larger the floor plate, the higher the annualized returns. The smaller the floor plate, the lower the annualized returns. So last example will be the Leiden. If you take a look at the Leiden, these are all their two-bedder different types of layout. For the two-bedder different types of layout, you can also see that the 786 square feet unit actually see themselves only gaining about 100 to 290,000. Annualized return can be as low as 0.92%. Whereas if you take a look at the 1033 and 1216, they can see themselves having a gain of 5 to 600,000, annualized return also about 4%. And if you see the ones over here at the 1,000 over square feet two-bedder, you can also notice that they have up to 7% of returns. This also further enhances the fact that if I'm going to buy Skye at Holland and I'm not in a rush to sell, I feel that I want to buy for own stay, I know that I want to have steady gains, I will definitely start from a larger size downwards. So instead of starting from the smaller unit upwards, start from the largest possible that you can afford downwards. So since we are talking about the larger floor plate being a possibly higher demand than a smaller floor plate, let's take a look at One Holland V. Again, live example, we have also colleagues trying to sell One Holland Village, cannot sell, eventually move into rental. If you see the actual transaction in One Holland Village, throughout this period from the time the TOP, which is 2 years ago until now, you can notice that there's only one single transaction of a three-bedder with a gain of 489,000. And then there's a total of 29 properties for sale in One Holland Village as of last week as I was searching. And why is it that the units are not moving? So I went to dive deeper to check it out. And I noticed that there's a total of 18 projects in Holland Village within 1 kilometer. Two bedroom in specific with 18 projects amounts to 199 listings. Yet nothing is sold in One Holland Village. Second is also for three-bedder, same requirement, 1 kilometer from Holland Village MRT. We also noticed there's 22 projects with 114 listings, yet also no movement except for one transaction in One Holland Village. And then for four-bedder, you can see that there's a total of 14 projects with 125 listings. And for that, we also see that most of the projects for these are more towards the older condos. So this is also one of the very big factor for me to realize that there's a seriously low supply of options in Holland Village. So in summary, right, larger units may have higher demand because of the strong exit strategy due to low supply. Smaller units may also have higher annualized return due to pricing strategy. Developers' pricing strategy may actually be conservative because they know that it's up to 40 level and they don't want to overprice it. And the sale of the smaller units in return may take time because the take-up rate is not high. So therefore, ask yourself, are you okay to lean towards rental during the interim? Now, after so much sharing about the development, what's around, the supply, the possible land sales, future exit plan and stuff like that, we're going to dive deeper into the bedroom types. As discussed, we're going to talk about 2 and 3. Anything more than that, we will be taking it offline or during our webinar so that we don't bore you with too many information. For 2-bedroom analysis, let's start with their 2-bedroom layout comparison. If you take a look at the 2-bedroom layout comparison, I'm going to zoom into the 2-bedroom compact, the regular 2-bedroom, 2-bed, 2-bath, and also the 2-bed plus study. If you take a look at the difference in the layout between the 1-bath and the 2-bath, the quantum gap between each other will be approximately 300,000. For 300,000, what you will get is an enclosed kitchen. You will have a larger master bedroom, and also you have a more spacious dining area here as compared to the 2-bed, 1-bath. Then conversely, if you are looking at the 2-bed, 2-bath versus the 2-bed premium plus study, the difference is a quantum of 163,000. And then you also have a functional study area over here, a larger master bathroom as compared to the 2-bed, 2-bath. And also the rental yield difference is going to be just a mere 0.2. So the key thing is today, if you are buying for capital gains, I would say that, as mentioned, start from the largest unit downwards. So the largest unit downwards, I think a 2-bed plus study will be ideal because the layout is actually very efficient. You have access to the study area. Most of the study room, they are kind of sometimes in between somewhere that is not so accessible. It could be like outside, near to the walkway. It could be like beside the kitchen or beside a toilet, that kind. But this one is right outside the master bedroom. So since it's right outside the master bedroom, this makes it so much more flexible because sometimes you may want to close this up and have your Zoom area. Sometimes you just feel like coming out to the balcony for a breather. So it really functions very nicely, and I believe this will be one of the hot selling stack, which is stack 1. So in my opinion, I will prioritize this as a top choice, and then this is my second choice.
And now let's take a look at One Holland Village for their 2-bedder performance for us to better predict how Skye Holland for their 2-bedder will perform. So for the 2-bedder at One Holland Village, we are mainly looking at 600 to 800 square feet because anything beyond that will be the equivalent of 3-bedders at Skye Holland. So for 689 square feet 2-bedder, the average entry price is 1.99 million, which means to say these are all new sale for the first homeowner and there are only 9 transaction volume. And if we look at the 797 square feet, the average entry price is around 2.165 million, and we can see a significant increase in the transaction volume of 41. This shows that most of the buyers or investors in the area prefer a larger floor plate given the same bedder type. But even that, I want to be mindful to remind you that, as you can see, there are 0 transaction volume for resale and sub-sale for 2-bedders. And a question to ask yourself is this: if you are looking to invest in a 2-bedder in this area, is it okay to rent out during the interim? And with that being said, let's take a look at the rental yield for the 2 unit types. For the unit with 689 square feet, we can see the average PSF rental here is $7.70, and we compared it against the average entry price of 1.99 million, it will give us approximately gross rental yield of 3.19%. And also, even in the worst case scenario, at approximately $6.70 per square feet, it will give us a return of 2.78% for rental yield. And for the 797 square feet, the average PSF rental here is $7.28, and we compare it against the average entry price of 2.16 million, the gross rental yield will amount to approximately 3.2%, and even in the worst case scenario, it's $6.27, which is about 2.76%. And now I believe a healthy benchmark is around 3% for gross rental yield. And for the rental yield we have presented so far, it might not be as satisfactory as some of the projects we have analyzed before. And actually, one of the reasons is you have to take note that there is a service apartment within the same development at One Holland Village, also by the same developer, Far East Organization. So as you know, for service apartment, the finishing, the renovation is very much like a hotel, and people actually prefer the services there, and they go anywhere from a daily rate to a monthly rate. and that actually absorbs some of the demand in that area.
As we were doing our analysis, we also realized that if I'm buying a place with a service apartment, yeah, I know that the rental amount that they're charging is like a hotel. It is also questionable because there are some people who don't want to rent like 3 months or 6 months. They want to rent just 1-2 months, and that is where like within the development itself, the owners might be kind of competing with the developer for the tenant pool. We certainly do not know whether this is real or not, but imagine today if you are looking for a short-term rental, you wouldn't want to go and pay a 6 months lease for a condo. Instead, you rather pay a bit more for a short-term lease. When we were discussing, we were also a bit worried that, can you imagine people who go into One Holland Village in lieu of, oh, I'm going to have good rental yield, if it's okay for me to hold and wait and stuff like that, only to realize that there's two things. One thing is that the selling off or flipping of this project is not so viable because the take-up rate is low. Then the second thing is, then I want to rent it out. I realize, my rental is also not that fantastic because it's just about maybe a good 3% plus minus. So 3% is just the gross rental yield. You haven't even offset the costs like property tax and maintenance fee or all the furniture that you need to provide for tenant and stuff. So if you offset all this, it can easily be, let's say, 2.8 or 2.7%. So with that, I do want to flag out to all the buyers who are looking for Skye Holland. If staying this place is something you want, go for it. If buying this place is something you expect to have very good rental yield, then I would be certainly a bit more mindful, because now I look at One Holland Village, I'm very sure that Skye Holland also go through the same thing. Nonetheless, we still want to look at the possible rental yield. With the transaction record that Terence has shared with you earlier, that is ranging about $7 per square feet and thereabout. We do realize that the price prediction versus rental yield now ranges from 2.57% to 2.9%, which means that if you are going for a compact two-bedder, which is 581 square feet, you'll find yourself being able to go in at 1.6 million all the way to 1.937 million. While this price looks certainly very attractive for a CCR project, that's the reason why you have to be double or even triple more careful if you're waiting for rental yield, because it seems like it's only 2.5 to 2.9%. Something that I may not be very happy with actually. This is just my own opinion, yeah? And then if you're moving forward to the 2-bed, 2-bath, which is the 2-bedroom premium, the lowest entry price is 1.8 range all the way to 2.2 million. For a CCR project, 2-bed, 2-bath, I also must say that it is a very efficiently priced property because it definitely looks much more enticing than upper house. And you can see that there's 3 colors over here, because this is also one possible thing that we will look out for when we bring our buyers to buy during the balloting day, is that there will definitely be certain floor level with a more massive price jump. So in case if there's any per floor jump that is more massive, the rates over here for the yield might change. So I know that the numbers are too small for you to read, so I'm just going to read out to you. For the lower floor for 2-bedroom premium, you will start from a 3.3% rental yield. As you go on from one batch to the other, in terms of the view and the facing, let's say we increase $100 per month for a better view, you can see yourself having a 3% all the way until level 27 to level 28. If you do want to be very sensitive with numbers, I would certainly choose something in between level 19 and downwards, because level 19 and downwards will ensure I have a 3.1%. In case if I, offset all the costs that I have to incur during my rental period, I will still be sitting at a 2.9 to 3%. So then again, it should be around 18, 19 floor and downwards. So how about 2-bedroom premium plus study? 2-bedroom premium plus study should be sitting at 2.05 million or 2.08 million all the way to 2.4 million. So 2.4 million being the top floor will have a rental yield of around only 2.7%. But if you go downwards to maybe level 10 and below, you can actually have 3% rental yield. So if it's rental yield, you can go from down to up. If it's for own stay and capital gain at the same time, start from the top to down and bigger, as big as you can. Okay, so in summary for 2-bedder, always look at the developer's pricing quantum and select the units which give you the best yield if it's for a renting purpose. And try to start from a larger size and downwards in order to strike a balance with capital gain versus rental yield. Now moving forward to 3-bedroom analysis, 3-bedroom layout comparison, where I'm going to take the usual C1 versus the CP2, which is their premium 3-bedder. For the compact 3-bedder at 915 square feet versus the premium 3-bedder, you can see that the quantum gap is 480,000, which is almost $500,000. So this is the part that you really need to do your numbers carefully, because are you willing to pay $500,000 more for a larger master bedroom, for a more spacious dining, and for a yard in the kitchen? Also having another home shelter. So layout wise, right, I think it's very good. There's actually some privacy over here. You have a wet and dry kitchen. I thought that's very nice. Even though it's 500,000 more, to be frank, I will still believe that this unit will move very well because the view is very beautiful, and also the layout is actually quite efficient. And we're talking about lifestyle, right? Earlier I mentioned the importance of lifestyle. You have wet and dry kitchen, proper dining, proper living. I think most families might prefer that as well.
Okay, and now let's look at the One Holland Village 3-bedder performance. So for One Holland Village, we are only looking at 1,098 square feet, because anything above that will be the equivalent of 4-bedder at Skye Holland. So we are looking at an average entry price of 2.98 million with a total transaction volume of 44. And just to take note, these are all first home owners. And if you are looking at the resale transaction volume, there's only one in the past 5 years with a 489,000 profit. So let's say if you are thinking about rental yield, especially for 3-bedder, for 1,098 square feet, we can see our average PSF rental here is $7.27, and if we compare it against the average entry price of 2.98 million, it will give us approximately 3.2%. And in the worst case scenario, it will amount to 2.5%. And bear in mind, this is the gross rental yield.
So as such, what could be the possible rental yield? I know most people who are buying 3-bedder may not actually be looking at rental yield, but because it's a harmonized project, let's say if you're looking at a compact 3-bedder to buy for rent, you want to know that you are going to start from 2.562 million all the way to 3 million. I would say this price is definitely very comfortable for most people looking for 3-bedder here. And the only concern that I have is if I base on the rental, you will be able to expect a 3% rental yield all the way up to level 11. As for 3-bedroom premium, your rental yield might likely be at also level 11 and lower. And anything above that, in terms of floor level onwards, will be only 2.9 to 2.8%. So it seems like the numbers is telling us that, if you're buying for rental, try to go for lower floor. If you're buying for own stay, try to go for a more functional, efficient layout. Well, I know that there's plenty of things that we haven't really covered. We haven't covered the 4-bedder, we haven't covered the 5-bedder, we haven't really looked at the layout comparison between us and our neighboring competitors. So, since it's just a YouTube video, I'm excited to share with you that we are going to do a webinar for the 16th and 23rd of September at 8 p.m. So if you are having a handphone with you right now, scan this QR code and enter in your details. And if you are keen about Skye Holland but you don't want to rush to buy, tune into this webinar, and I'm sure that you will walk away with lots of insights and even more information for you to make a more sound decision. And once again, my name is Kelly and this is Terrence. And again, my name is Kelly and this is Terrence. If you like the content, remember to click like and subscribe to Live at Home SG's YouTube account. And if there's any burning question that you do want to reach out and ask, feel free to scan this QR code again, and this goes direct to my WhatsApp. We'd like to end off to share with you that remember, all the property decisions you make must be made with the right strategy. Don't just rush to buy, but make sure you do your homework first. With that, we'll end off today's video.